away from the water, meaning oceans and rivers, and that and high up, higher elevation than in sea level, and the higher the better. And that land could be a modest 1 acre or half acre. He said it doesn't matter. You can grow enough food and drill for water on that piece of land, and it's yours, and you have it for survival. So he said, get your own piece of land in specific areas. In some areas, you don't get it because it's not going to survive a cataclysmic coming event. So he said, water, 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 water will become more valuable than gold. To have your own water is an imperative. To be able to grow your own food, because in times ahead, one of the greatest conspiracy theories is that our food that we buy in mass markets are polluted with toxins and preservatives. And he said to grow your own grows the healthiest nutrients from the earth. So he was telling people, instead of buying a holiday house in Aspen or, someplace in Italy, buy a place somewhere in North America in certain regions. And it can be a very modest place, but make sure it has water and make sure you can grow things on it and put up things and begin to save things. Now people at that time were very reactive because they felt that he was creating fear in the marketplace. And with that, Ramtha said, fear is generated by one's lack of not knowing the future. But when you know the future, you're not afraid. That energetic consequence of fear is transmuted into an aggressive participation in the future because the future still exists as a potential. Well, those who listened went on to migrate and to find places in certain areas that would be exactly where they were supposed to be, and sort of followed this little very, very modest, seems outrageous, but, have food put up enough for 2 years for you and whoever is with you. Have your own water, put up seeds, things like that. It sounds that sort of sounds, at that time, very silly. But now we know today, going forward, that ex-presidents, including Clinton and Bush and Carter, have both been promoting modestly again, I say is not to terrify, to get people to put up food and medicines and all those things in a safe place so that they can take care of themselves through disaster. That's not a rumor. You can actually go and find that on the Internet. That is an organization of presidents who are encouraging people to be literally self-sufficient today. So along with that continuing movement to continue to get people used to the idea of not running out and getting your food at the local deli or at the grocery store, but in fact begin to be a participant in your own nutrition and to be able to put up that nutrition and have clean water and certain things. So it took a while to get people to orient to that direction. He said, get out of the cities. They'll become the most dangerous places on earth in times that are coming. And so there began a slow migration of people into secondary properties that began to do exactly as he said. And so along with their doing that, he predicted the drought that happened in the early 90s in the Midwest, the lake that dried up that actually was supplying waters for Atlanta, I believe it is, the drying out of the drought that was occurring, and that was actually drying up water resources around the world. He predicted famine in parts of the world that came to pass. So these are all 80s prediction. And he also had told his people, buy gold. And now go back again. This is early 80s, so you could buy gold for $200 an ounce, $189 an ounce. And he said, buy this gold a little bit every year and put it up. It's not one of those investments that whatever the value is that you need to have a knee-jerk reaction to sell it or that you're losing anything, that this is actually a system, an interim system, to be able to support yourself in times that are ahead, and that gold would reach fantastic values. And, of course, we know today that if a person bought it $180 an ounce, that today it's nearly $1,300 an ounce, and in Europe it's even higher. So we see that thread from the beginning starting to manifest. We're seeing the toxicity of our food becoming relevant every single day. And at one point he gave a sign. He said the first outbreak that was known in terms of the outbreak that poisons meat, forgot the name of it right off the top of my head, that there would be an outbreak that would poison meat and not to eat in the restaurants in a certain area, and that the water, they would find that the water was poisoned. Well, that actually happened.
Mad cow, wasn't it? Wasn't that mad cow?
No,
disease?
Not mad cow, although that's important. No, it's a bacteria growth.
Okay.
I'll think of it in a moment. That actually happened. He said it would happen in a fortnight, and a fortnight to Ramtha is 2 weeks, a little more or less. And that happened in Minnesota, to where our first outbreak of food poisoning on a large scale happened there, and then that the water system was contaminated, and that began to occur. Now, these seem to be small things, but when we're in the quarterback armchair position, we look back and see those are pretty wise statements in terms of getting people ready for certain things that are happening, and these things continue to manifest. So we come to his most fantastic predictions, to where he said that the Earth would rotate, not on a magnetic axis, but actually up on its own physical axis. But it wouldn't completely roll over, that it would roll to a point, sort of like that it would half roll. Then he talked about the consequences of that and the water, and he used water in a bathtub. You know, if you tilt the water a little bit, what happens? Well, an enormous sloshing goes to one end. He said that's what's going to happen on the Earth, and that the further inland you can get and the higher up you can get, and that you have a safe place, you will be protected from these things, no matter how catastrophic that it sounds, you will be. And so he talked about that, and then he talked about, in terms of that our sun would stand still, and we would find that an anomaly. But in reality, that is the Earth rolling to a point and then rolling back. So the sun that rose in the east and set in the west may be rising in the west and setting in the east, sort of thing. Again, this is 1980s information. He also talked about that there would come 12 days of light. And in 12 days of light, he said the void would be lit up, meaning that everywhere you look, there would be light, and it would last for 12 days without any darkness. And he contributes that to another factor that's quite outrageous that I don't think I want to get into right now, but that is coming. And he talks about a great intimidation coming, and the great intimidation coming is the one day you'll get up in the morning and your skies from horizon to horizon will be UFOs sitting in the sky. I mean, gigantic ships that he said that one size could fit Los Angeles in its belly. So we're talking about some massive ships that are going to come. He calls that the great intimidation. And that certainly, if you think about that, that would certainly intimidate people who postulate the idea that there are no other races more superior to ours in this